Hi everyone, Queeveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the night sky in September, of course, for the month coming up, but we will be concentrating on the stars. There are so many exciting things coming up in September that in my previews of September, I've concentrated on those. We've got so many interesting things, eclipses, conjunctions, occultations, lots of interesting things going on in September. But we do, of course, have the stars, which will look as they do in September every year. But we're taking a look at the sky here for very early in September. We can see Antares there and Scorpius. We can see the curve of Serpens, Ophiuchus, or Ophiuchus would be up around here. We can see the summer triangle. We can see a lot of bright and famous stars. There's Arcturus. There's a lot of the more famous wintertime stars starting to come into the sky. We've now got the square of Pegasus completely up as soon as the sun goes down. Over here would be Andromeda, and we've got Cassiopeia. So this means that the Andromeda galaxy is up pretty much all night long. We'll have it up from sunset at least, so we won't have to wait too long for it to come up from lower in the northern horizon. Turning around to the north, the sun's just gone down, and we have the Plough or the Big Dipper over there in the northwest, pointing up to the North Star. And as the night goes on, the Plough is going to move more and more under the North Star as we come later and later in the evening. We're taking a look at the sky to start with as we would see it in the city, but we will move out into the countryside and lose the light pollution a little bit later. We're after coming all the way through here to local midnight, physical midnight, so we're still in summertime here in Ireland. You can see there UTC +1. So us seeing the sky here at 1:30, it's really 12:30 if it wasn't for summertime, and it's really our local midnight which needs to be adjusted because we're so far along in our time zone. We can see that Saturn there is nice and high. Saturn is at opposition or nearly at opposition, so it's going to be with us all night long. We'll take a closer look at Saturn a little bit later. We can see that the summer triangle is already sinking down on one side of the sky, and we've lost Scorpius and Sagittarius. We've got the square of Pegasus and therefore the Andromeda galaxy much higher in the sky, so it's going to be even easier to observe. We've got Capella there, or Capella is the star, the constellation is Auriga. We have this kind of pentagonal shape, so that's nice and easy to recognize even from the city. Coming up to morning time, and we're still early in September here, so morning time is still a little bit early. We'll have to move later in the month for these stars to come up closer to midnight. But we're seeing Orion there. We've got Aldebaran with the Hyades and Taurus here, or Taurus, I guess, up in this direction. These are the Pleiades, and Taurus kind of extends from the Hyades to the Pleiades, and its horns up in the other direction up here. We've got Gemini, of course, the twins over there as well. So we've got more of those famous things coming into the sky. For the very early part of the month, we've still got Mercury, but as I said, we won't worry too much about the planets. We'll move forward an extra couple of days just to see the difference that makes, so we can see these things a little bit more clearly. We're seeing them a little bit easier because as we move further and further into September, we're going to have our longer nights. We're going to have our earlier sunsets and our later sunrises, which of course for stargazing and for astronomy, that's great, that's perfect. That's what we want. The days we don't get to observe quite as many things during the day. One of the reasons I'm after moving forward to September 4th here, before we go further into the countryside or before we take a look at the constellations in more detail, I was told that Titan would transit Saturn. It looks like this isn't going to be visible from Ireland, but we can get rid of the ground and the atmosphere to follow these things for a little bit longer to see if it is going to be visible. Because of the tilt at which we see Saturn, we don't usually see, well, there we go, it's pretty much a transit. We're seeing it at a particular angle, of course, from here in Ireland, but we're seeing Titan there really close to Saturn in its path. because of the way the moons orbit around Saturn and the tilt of Saturn, we don't usually see Titan passing directly behind or in front of the planet. So it's often very, very visible. We can see here that the moons of Saturn, they're definitely orbiting Saturn's equator, and we can see that lots of them, especially the moons that are closer to Saturn, they do regularly transit or get occulted. They go in front of or behind Saturn. But because Saturn is a little bit tilted, further away from Saturn, objects following its equator are going to look like they're forming an ellipse around Saturn, a very eccentric ellipse, which is very different to how their orbit would look from above. But we can see, even from here in Ireland, it does look like Titan is passing almost in front of Saturn. There's a good chance that that would look slightly different from other locations. But it is our view from Ireland looking through the ground. If we pull back here, I should be able to check exactly how far under the horizon we need to look. Not too far, a little bit under the horizon. So this won't be visible from here in Ireland, but from other locations it should be. So that's something you can check out if you're a little bit further west. If you're a little bit further west than we are here in Ireland, that is something you should be able to check out. We're going to get back into nighttime and push out into the countryside just to see, as always, the difference that it makes. There's plenty more stars visible in the countryside, so we're also going to see things a little bit earlier. We do have the moon in the sky here, but of course the moon is going to be up in the sky for much of the month. It just stops being new as the month begins, so we're going to get our full moon pretty close to the middle of the month. We will take another look at Saturn later in the month because there is supposed to be another transit of Titan. We can see our brightest stars coming out here nice and early, so it's just 8:30 and we're already getting bright stars in the sky. There's Bootes. We can see a little bit of Mars there. Of course, it's not going to be easy to see for us. It's pretty difficult, very close to the sun there. We can see Antares a little bit higher in the sky this early, just as the sun is going down, and we can see the Summer Triangle and the Square of Pegasus nice and clearly. We'll push a little bit later, and there's Saturn popping up above the horizon just as the sun is setting. We're just coming up to 9 o'clock. Sagittarius is particularly clear and easy to see. So at other times of the year, when we see Sagittarius in the south, the angle at which we're seeing it can put some of these stars under the horizon, but we're seeing pretty much all of Sagittarius there, and we're already starting to see a little bit of the Milky Way. Now, of course, this is a perfectly dark sky with absolutely no light pollution. It's very difficult to achieve skies like this. Dark sky parks are the best place to do so, and we can see here, close enough to the full moon, the light of the moon is definitely having an effect. If we move away from the full moon later in the month, then we get a much better view of the Milky Way. So we can see there the Milky Way is starting to appear as we come past 9 o'clock. So definitely by a little after 9 o'clock, here at close to 9:30, the glow of the Milky Way is nice and clearly visible. We're able to see the same stars. Of course, it is the same stars, but we're able to see much more of them, and that lets us see smaller constellations like Delphinus there, for example. But with so many stars in the sky, it can also be difficult to keep track of exactly what constellations are what. Here are the lines making up the constellations, so that makes it a lot easier to see Corona Borealis and Hercules there, as well as a few of the other images in the sky. We'll bring up the actual pictures just to give the most obvious viewing of what's in the sky. So we can see Saturn there it's probably in Pisces. We can double check. Yeah, Saturn is over the line in Pisces, even though it looks like it's in the image of Cetus the whale there. The drawings don't always perfectly line up with the actual breakup of the sky and how things are divided. While we're in the countryside, if we take a look over here, we've got our Square of Pegasus, we've got our Cassiopeia, so we know that just in around here is our Andromeda galaxy, and it starts to become visible really quite early. So we can see here, by going across the Square of Pegasus, we get pretty close to Andromeda. It's a little bit higher. By going through this triangle of Cassiopeia, we also get pretty close to Andromeda. And it is a very large galaxy, even though it's very distant from us. So we can see it very clearly there. While we're zooming in on things, we'll take a look for the Triangulum galaxy. It's almost certainly this one. It's one of the easiest ones to see. So there we have another galaxy, another very close neighbor, our next closest neighbor after Andromeda. So we can see here a little bit zoomed in, we can see the shapes of those galaxies. But the Andromeda galaxy is visible to the naked eye if you are in perfect conditions, such as the ones I'm showing here. We'll keep moving along to morning time, and just as we get the planets rising, we can see some of the other constellations. So here in the countryside, a little bit before the sun rises, we're just getting the moon coming up there. We can still, and Venus just next to it. So we can still see a little bit of Cancer the Crab. A couple of those stars are visible. And we can see some of the other faint constellations, less famous ones like Cetus and Eridanus there. Eridanus, Eridanus, however you'd like to pronounce it. While we've got the moon and Venus so close together, we'll see if they get particularly close. They might not get particularly close from here in Ireland, just because we'll get into daytime. Yeah, so we're not going to be able to see them occult or have a particularly close conjunction from here in Ireland. But it does, yeah, there is an occultation of Venus happening just there during the day. So I'm pretty certain that I've already taken a look at that, but it's always nice to have little reminders of what's going on in the sky as we look around. That's a little bit about the stars and the constellations that we're going to see in the coming month, as well as Titan and Saturn being very close together. We'll get rid of the pictures and our selection of Venus. I hope you get to see some of these things in the real sky. I hope you get to see the sky like this. So remember, it is very hard to see the sky with this much darkness, even in areas that you might consider the countryside. Dark sky parks, official dark sky parks, are places where these things are definitely this dark. So if you have any of those near you, they're a particularly nice place to visit. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do like it. And if you like this kind of content, then you can subscribe to this YouTube channel. You can also check out my website, queeveenscontent.ie, where you'll find some of this information written down. And most importantly, thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you back here next time.